Well, picture this for a moment, if you will. You're out shooting in the sunlight with your brand new Canon R8 and you're shooting some stuff in 50 frames per second, and it's been, I don't know, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, you're losing track of time, and you're asking the subject or whatever you're shooting to just walk that way again and just to come back, and all of a sudden you get the dreaded overheat warning that the camera is about to shut down. Now, seriously, I've been there and I've done that with the Canon R5, and I will not be doing it again. And what an unfortunate thing to know that in 50 frames per second, the Canon R8 is just not up to the task, and it will give you 30 to 40 minutes of record time. That's in good conditions, not in hot or warm climates, in normal sort of studio setting. And then at that point, it will start to overheat. And who knows the cycle of overheat? If you're an R5 owner like me, you've been through this before. And thankfully, the R5 has the firmware now to overcome those issues with overheating. But the R8, unfortunately, is plagued with this same problem. And it's really unfortunate. If this camera was only $1,000, maybe it would be okay that this has happened again. But the fact that this is a $1,500 camera and it isn't just an entry level point and shoot, it's got the Canon C-Log codec in there. It's got a whole lot of other great features, which I've put a video out, which has done really well, by the way. And if you want to see that one, linked in the description below. But the fact that we are now seeing the same thing again with Canon, it kind of annoys me that this is the case. And yes, it's a small body. Yes, I understand there's a lot of heat, but seriously, why would you bother making something that's just going to overheat when someone's using it full on and, you know, trying to get the most out of it and using it like this is just unusable for me for like a whole day to shoot on it, because by the time I've shot some 25p in interviews, then I go and do run and gun 50p, maybe I want to shoot some higher frame rate stuff, the thing is going to overheat on me. And that is just a fact. I've done that before with the Canon R5, and switching back to 1080p and then switching back to 4K. It's just annoying and something that you just don't want to have to deal with. And the fact that the Canon R8 actually has this as an issue is annoying. And even to the point where the 25p, it's around about an hour and 10 minutes of battery life. But then once you get to that point, you're actually very close, maybe a bar or two away from the overheating. And no, I haven't tested it, but there are many tests online and on YouTube now that show this is the case. So by the time you put a second battery in and you're shooting for your second hour in the normal 25 frames per second, 4K, you're going to be having to monitor that overheating. And I wanted to set this camera up as a second camera so that I could have it as a B camera and almost like not monitor it, or maybe just monitor it through the app and, you know, interview with the A cam being the R5 and then this being a great B camera. Well, it's not going to work like I would like it to work, because I'm going to have to monitor that overheat issue. And even if I were to put a dummy battery in it within an hour, or, you know, maybe an hour and 15 minutes, it's potentially going to overheat in the normal 25p. So not only is it no good for run and gun when I shoot everything in 50p for a lot of what I do, but also for the interviews, it's just not going to cut it. It's a real bummer, you know. Everything else about the camera kind of matches up with the R6 Mark II, and I've used the R6 Mark II and shot with that and also graded that footage, and it grades up really nicely. It's a great image coming out of that camera. It's not as good as the R5. It's nowhere really near the R5 in the RAW, the 8K RAW codec, but in terms of a usable codec that doesn't get destroyed when you color grade it, and it handles, you know, dynamic range, it's really, really good. And the unfortunate thing is that sensor in the R8 was going to be a bit of a game changer for the price point and the size and form factor, but the issue with this overheating just kind of blows that out of the water. And like I said, I've been there, done that. I do not want to be doing it again. Even the R6 Mark II, I sort of avoided getting that as a second option because it was overheating as well. In the 50 frames per second codecs, obviously shoots a lot longer than the R8 because it's a bigger body size and everything. But I think the only option I sort of have left is the R5 or the R5C, but that's not the kind of money I was wanting to spend. So in that case, I'm pretty much going to be just using the R5 and the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera, sticking with what I know and sticking with what I've got. And that's just the way it's got to be. I really want Canon to bring out a camera that's like $1,500 to $2,000 that really has all these boxes ticked. But unfortunately, they're just not going to give us what we need really in that price bracket. And you know, something in that price bracket for $2,000 to $3,000 is, of course, the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema 6K, the G2 as well. And that's going to be the camera. I think that if you're just starting out and you really want that higher end quality to your video productions, you really want the dynamic range that a better camera can provide, I would say look no further than the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera. And this is the first video and the first time I've suggested to move away from Canon in that price bracket. It's just because they're not offering what we really need. And what I think is, you know, it's not $800, not $900, it's $1,500 US. So for us in Australia, the R8 I think is maybe $2,500 for us in Australia. It's not small change. It is a big investment and a big amount of money. And for that price point, it's just not offering enough. And there's too many shortcomings. I wish I could sing its praises. I love Canon. I'm always going to be a Canon fanboy at heart, but it's, you know, the last few releases of cameras with Canon and with Sony as well has really made me think more and more about the Red Komodo. And maybe I could move my Canon R5, sell off a few lenses and look at the Red Komodo. It's just because I really am searching for that higher end image quality, and I really am, the limitations of even the Blackmagic Pocket in terms of its dynamic range, it's just starting to become something where I'm just really chasing that quality. And no, the camera doesn't make the video production. Obviously, shooting on an R5 is a real privilege and I get to do that. I love to do that. And if you're just starting out, then I would, suggest the R8 could be a great camera for you just starting out. If you're not shooting professionally and long form interviews and you're not just needing to set the camera and forget, well, the Canon R8 might be great for you, but just for me and what I do, it's just not ticking all the boxes. And so, I've looked at the R7, I've looked at the R3, I've looked at the R8 now, and it's kind of annoying to go through all the specs, to put out videos, to put out content, and then realize, there's this one sticking point that's not, that means the camera won't be good for me. But just think that process through. Think about if you're looking at the R8 to purchase it, think about that process of you're out there, you're shooting, and all of a sudden, the thing just cripples up and starts to have an overheat warning. That's something that you might run into. So just be aware. But thank you so much for watching this video, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.